Fônix at Fårup Sommerland is the latest new generation Vekoma roller coaster to debut in Europe. It's the largest investment the park has ever made and became the tallest and fastest roller coaster in Denmark. The park clearly wants this ride to be a success, so what's it like to experience it? How does it compare to similar coasters? And could this possibly become the best roller coaster in Denmark? Let's find out. I'm Rollercoaster David, and this is my review of Fônix, Fårup Sommerland. Now first up, I just want to clear something up about the ride's name. Fônix is Danish for Phoenix, and I heard most Danes in the park pronounce it as Foonix. There's already several coasters called Phoenix though, and I just don't think Foonix sounds right with my accent, so I've decided to call it Fônix for the sake of this video. With that out of the way, let's kick things off with a breakdown of the ride's layout. After exiting the station, Fônix begins with a small dip that transitions into a gently banked left-hand turn. This takes you to the bottom of the 131 foot tall lift hill. A chain lift quickly takes you to the top, and there's no slowing down as you're pushed straight into the 40-metre first drop, reaching the ride's maximum speed of 59 miles per hour. You then pull up into a world's first new element called a stall loop, before you drop back down and twist to the left. Turning to the right, you hit an airtime element that falls into a low to the ground right turn that leads straight into a fast heartline roll. As you exit, you turn upwards to the right and into a double down, before twisting into an airtime S-curve before you corkscrew through the ride station. You then turn to the left and experience two off-axis airtime hills, then twist to the right and level out into two straight airtime hills. The next element is like an inward wave turn that transitions into an upward left turn, giving a moment of airtime before the track twists to the right and you finally hit the brakes. Now, I've maybe misnamed some of those elements, but it kind of gives you an idea of just how rapid and twisty this ride is. My anticipation for riding it started as soon as I could see it from the car, as unlike nearly all of Fårup Sommerland's rides, which are hidden by the trees, Fônix is clearly visible from the road as you approach the park. I guess that isn't too surprising considering it is the tallest roller coaster in Denmark, but it's fair to say I was quite hyped to ride, and thankfully it didn't disappoint. Fônix is well paced, varied and endlessly re-rideable. It's a coaster that's a fantastic addition to the park. The first element is particularly fun, pulling up like a vertical loop but stalling at the top with some great hang time. RCDB describes this as an inverted top hat, but it's more drawn out than that would imply, and Vekoma's stall loop description fits it better. It makes for a great start to the ride with an instant thrill of upside down airtime, and marks this out as a thoroughly modern ride which will do some crazy stunts. The second inversion feels really snappy too and is taken with a lot of speed and low to the ground. A lot of the ride is actually close to the ground level, which makes it feel fast as the ground rushes past you. The third inversion is quite special too, as it goes straight through the station, usually whilst the next train is loading, and the screams of riders echo through the building as the train thunders through. Apart from the inversions, the rest of the ride is just wonderful little pops of airtime and fun twists. There's airtime in pretty much every direction you can imagine, and the ride claims to have more airtime than any other ride in Scandinavia. An impressive boast when you consider Scandinavia includes Boulder, Piraten and Wildfire, which are all known worldwide amongst coaster enthusiasts for their impressive airtime. The ride is silky smooth with no unexpected jolts or judder, nothing's overly aggressive either, and whilst the bottom of the first drop and the curved pull out from the stall loop do pull some decent positive G, it isn't sustained for very long, so there's no elements where you might even slightly grey out. The forces in general are really well balanced, with excellent transitions into negative G airtime as the track twists all around. You can't help but smile as you ride Fônix. There's so much variety to the layout and it just doesn't let up. There's not a dull moment on the whole ride, and every element seems to do exactly what it should, be that delivering the perfect amount of airtime or twisting you head over heels. The ride is just super fun and you'll want to ride it again and again, and that's something that's pretty easy to do as it's comfortable enough to marathon for a good part of the day. The trains look good and are a nice bright colour which stands out against the dark green track. Each one bears the Fônix logo, and the park was running both trains all day with good operations, so the wait time was never long. I know not everyone is super keen on the new style Vekoma restraints, but personally I quite like them. They're comfortable without any bits that are likely to cause bruises, there's no headbanging, and there's enough give in the restraint that it still lets you experience airtime as you're lifted up out of your seat. Some people find the vest part pushes down too much on them, but I just don't find that an issue at all, and they feel comfortable, modern and safe. The ride doesn't have much in the way of theming, but the landscaping around it is quite nice, and it should look even better when more of the grass has grown back and some of the trees and bushes they've planted have filled out a bit. The station and maintenance buildings have a nice wooden style to them, and there's some nice walkways around the ride that allow you to get lots of different angles to take photos and videos. There's just one thing I kind of feel is missing, and that's the soundtrack. The station was generally quiet except for when the train went through overhead, and I just think having a bit of a signature music could add an extra layer of epicness to the ride. So it's a great ride then, but there's a few rides it needs to be compared against, and the top of that list is another new generation Vekoma, Lech coaster at Legendia in Poland. On paper, Foenix and Lech are nearly identical. They both have the same height, the same speed, the same trains, 3 inversions, and only 10 feet separating them in length. But off paper, the rides couldn't really be more different. I feel like when Vekoma made Lech, they decided to go all out and truly make an incredible, forceful and world-class coaster for roller coaster fans. They wanted to make a statement that gone were the days of Vekoma being a joke amongst enthusiasts. This would be a ride they could be proud of and not just be known for headbanging SLCs and boomerangs. This was new Vekoma, and it was making an impact. In doing this with Lech, I kinda feel they may have went a bit too far though, making some sections of the ride too forceful or overly intense so that it's all a bit too much for the average rider. I remember when we had an ERT session on it during a Coaster Force trip shortly after it opened, and a lot of the group couldn't handle more than a couple of back-to-back rides without needing some recovery time in between. Since Lech debuted, however, the follow-up Vekomas have seemingly decided to play it a bit safer. Maybe a bit too safe in the case of Abyssus, where the ride is solid but just feels like it's lacking a wow factor or something to make it stand out and be more special. Foenix isn't on the same scale as Abyss, so I don't think expectations for the ride can be the same, but there is some wowish moments in it, particularly the unique stall loop and fast inversions. I think it's pretty much got the balance spot on in terms of forcefulness, pacing, intensity and re-rideability. I think that Foenix may actually be my favourite Vekoma roller coaster. Another ride that needs to be compared to Foenix is its main competition to claim the best roller coaster in Denmark title, Piraten at Fårup Sommerland, the only Intamin megalite to be built outside of Asia. Now Piraten is a fantastic ride filled with airtime, and I remember a time when enthusiasts raved about Intamin megalites, how despite having a modest height they managed to pack in the thrills of a proper hypercoaster, and whilst that remains true, I much prefer Foenix. Foenix is just so much more dynamic and interesting, with so many twists and turns and hardly a single straight section of track, that it makes Piraten honestly feel kind of dated. A lot has happened in the amusement industry since the megalite debuted 15 years ago, and those changes in track design and manufacturing are exemplified by Foenix. There aren't many other rides I think are a good comparator to Foenix, apart from a couple of Mack coasters that fit the megalite mould. Alpina Blitz at Nigloland and the Storm at Etnaland are both coasters that I had a great time riding. I remember them having a good mix of floater and ejector air, and being quite fantastic coasters in their own right. It's been quite a while since I rode them though, and I think Foenix is a much better ride, although recency bias may be a strong factor in this. All in all, Foenix is simply a brilliant, fun roller coaster, and it's exactly what a park like Fårup Sommerland needed to add to its coaster selection. It's still a fairly small ride in comparison to what's available worldwide, so it will probably struggle to make any seasoned travellers' top 10 list, but I do think it's probably the best roller coaster in Denmark, and I hope it proves a big success in drawing more visitors to the park. So that about wraps up this review. Go and ride Foenix if you get the chance. I've been Rollercoaster David, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another video very soon.